King James VI of Scotland.
He became the king, and it was said unto him that a new translation should be brought forth of the Scriptures. And the reason why is that you got a lot of people using the Geneva Bible, but then they'd go to church and it's the bishop's Bibles. There were two main versions, and both of them had issues. The Geneva Bible had some issues, the bishop's Bible had some issues. And so they said, let's just take the time to do it right. They got the best scholars in the land together, and they said, we're not trying to replace a bad version. We're going from good to better to best here. I mean, these are good translations. The Geneva Bible is good. The Bishop's Bible is good. We're just going to perfect it and get it just dialed in. So from 1604 to 1610, the KJV was translated by 54 of the greatest scholars that existed at that time. Just to give you one example, one guy, Lancelot Andrewes, was an expert in Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Chaldean, Syriac, Arabic, and he also spoke 15 modern languages. That's one guy out of the 54 people that translated the King James Bible over the course of 7 years.
So there were those who were Arabic scholars, there were those who were Greek and Hebrew scholars, there were Aramaic scholars. They were men of great intellect, all of them.
Yeah.
And their knowledge of the Scripture was varied. They may have held some different beliefs, or different areas of theology might be slightly different from one of the other translators. What they did was they divided themselves up into 6 groups. These 6 men translated these 6 books of the Bible and so forth. And when they did this, then they compared them all together. And each of the 6 groups did this. And then they chose one leader out of each group to evaluate all 6 groups. And so what happened was every passage of Scripture was evaluated 15 times. Wow. And in the end of it all of them came into agreement with what was translated based upon the correct verbal dynamic that they used. That is, for what it says, that's what it means, even if it was in slight contradiction to what they might think.
The king in 1603 said, okay, I'm going to organize a committee, and no matter how long it takes, you're going to go to work using 2 rules. Old Testament must be translated from the Hebrew, New Testament must be translated from the Greek, and I'm going to give you all the resources humanly possible to make this happen. So the best Hebrew of that day, the best scholarly Greek of that day, and in 1603, 53 guys were hired. They go off, and for 7 years, they work on what we know today is the most important book in the history of man. The first edition, first issue, first printing of the King James text. And it took them 7 years. And they did a phenomenal job. And the King James that you and I read today, of course, comes from that 1769 revision, but this was the anchor of the text. And this is the product of it. And in 1612, he gives us what we know today as the very first handheld King James New Testament.
And this is what caught on.
That's what caught on.
The handheld
King
New
says
Testament.
if you can afford it, you can own it. Every bookstore in London sold it, and it would take off. And then it would become, and always has been, the #1 selling book in the history of man. No book has ever outsold this text, or ever will.
When we look at the Bible versions that led up to the King James, Tyndale, Matthew, Coverdale, Great Bible, Bishop's Bible, Geneva Bible, they all line up with the King James. They all basically say the same thing as the King James. The King James Bible is the culmination of the Bibles that preceded it.